Hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to hop on to our little training webinar here. Remind you again, for those of you who've been here before, that in your Q&A or in the webinar controls, there's a Q&A section for putting questions in, and we'll be answering those throughout. So whether or not that's something that's related to specifically what we're talking about here in our discussion today, or if it's maybe just something that's a little bit different on a slightly different tangent you're just hoping to get some input on, then feel free to put any of those types of questions in that Q&A section. And if some of those are related to something we're talking about live, we'll answer those live. Otherwise, we can follow up with you after the fact as well. So again, the Q&A section there. And again, I had shared this poll last time for some of you who were there. Maybe some of you were, maybe some weren't. I'm going to throw this up here on the screen now. So I think you should be seeing it. Maybe just take a few moments here and give us some feedback on some of those questions. We're just decide if whether or not these are, how useful these types of sessions are to you guys out there, and if it's something that you guys would find value in on an ongoing type basis. So if that's something that you're interested in, or you would say like, yeah, that's something I would really make a priority to be a part of, then you can answer some of those questions, and then maybe what regularity that might be at if you were going to do that. So I'll give you a few more seconds there to finish that poll, finish any of your questions that you might be answering there, and then I'll conclude that, and then we'll jump into the actual stuff here. All right, gonna close it down here momentarily. So if you're finishing up, go ahead and submit those answers and we'll move on. All right, thanks for that input. Appreciate that. We'll continue to look at that as we look into the new year of how we choose to go forward there. So appreciate that. So yeah, today wanted to take time and look in particular at wall assemblies and maybe just look at some of the specific points about them. I'm going to jump over here to the profile first. So actually, maybe I'll just jump here briefly to the plan tab. If you're in the plan tab and you're drawing wall assemblies, and this would be true if you're adding something to your list as well. So if you were to come here, and this is mostly just to kind of see, I'm going to come down here, set this to wall assembly, and we'll go to product and more products. So the options that you have here, these options in this list that show up, orange demising, exterior, these are driven by what wall assembly templates you've put into your profile. That's what drives this offering here. And the same would be true if you were over here in the project tab, in the material list, like going to a specific area and adding an application. And again, these options here that you're seeing for the wall assemblies, again, driven by what's available in that over here. So I'm going to come over to the profile. Here in the wall assemblies tab, so you can see here that from what I was showing you, that matches what we're seeing here. So you can have multiple variants of this. So a classic example of this would be, let's say that in the market that I'm in, it would be very common for me to have a 6-inch exterior wall with a treated bottom plate, but then also a 6-inch exterior wall without one. So for example, so I can come to the 6-inch exterior wall and I can choose to create a copy. It's going to take all of my settings that I had already set for the 6-inch exterior wall, populate them in here. And so I could call this my 6-inch exterior with treated bottom, or whatever you want to call it. But I'm going to set it to that. And then I'm going to actually come to my bottom plate and I'll make that change. I may say, hey, this is going to be S by never T treated. And I'll click OK. And now I have that variant in here. So now as I'm working through my projects in the future, if I was to do this in my template file, I could go along and I'd be able to pick, either the 6-inch exterior or the 6-inch exterior treated bottom plate. And that's just one example. That the treated bottom plates tend to be a pretty common one across different markets, that you may want to have different variants for your wall assemblies, but that certainly isn't the limit. If you wanted to create a wall assembly, if you find that you're commonly having say a 2x6 wall with like a soundproofing wall where it's 2x6 and 2x4 studs off center from each, alternating each side of the wall, something like that. you could create a wall assembly that's set up and geared that way. And again, it could be something here in your wall assembly options so that you don't have to go and create and build and modify these things every time. So make changes and adjustments here in the Profile Wall Assemblies tab in the in your different templates that you've created. But then jumping back over here to the list itself, taking a look at some other the nuances, if you want to call them that, for wall assemblies. So obviously, when you have a wall assembly, like I've got this 6-inch exterior 38-foot wall that I've drawn in. If I hit the plus button on the left-hand side, that's going to give you the view into everything that's being called for that particular wall assembly. So the individual parts and pieces based on the settings of that wall assembly. If you come to the center plus button here, then you're going to see that listed up above here. And then, so this is kind of like two different stacked sections. So you can see up above here is the settings area. This is pretty much equivalent or nearly equivalent to what you have over in the profile. So you can see the different settings, waste factors, bottom lap, top laps, and different things like that. And then down below here, just underneath it, is still that other section that we expanded with the actual outputs. So a lot of this is pretty self-explanatory, pretty straightforward things that you've probably noticed, but I wanted to touch on a couple of items that you may not have been aware of. One is this checkbox over here, no PET studs or pre-cut stud lengths. So if you're in a situation, or maybe it's just for a specific wall, that you don't want to be shipping or using PET studs, or those pre-cut stud lengths like 92 and 5/8. So you can see down here, like in this particular wall, the stocking lengths available for my exterior studs are those here, 92 and 5/8, 104 and 5/8, and then all my standard stocking lengths as well for that particular product type, 2x6 SPF. If I was to check this box, you'll notice that all of those pre-cut stud lengths go away. They're no longer offered or available for it, and instead I'm going to get 45 8-footers instead. So if you ever need to be able to control and say, hey, I don't want to be pulling those PET or pre-cut lengths, I just really want just some standard stocking lengths, that would be a checkbox to be able to control that. The linked capabilities. So when it comes to linking your walls, you can see here that I've got my 38-foot wall that I've drawn in, and this is over in the plan tab. I'm going to click the zoom to button here. You'll notice since I have this selected right here, and I'm going to touch back on this feature in just a moment because this might be interesting to you. I'm going to hit the zoom to button, and over here in the plan tab, that actually zooms to that location. So it takes me to the page. It selects, and this is what's actually important, this is selects the member that we're looking for, and then it's zoomed in on that place on the page. So here's my exterior wall, my 38-foot wall. I could of course add to that, etc. But coming back here, let's say that instead of this being the 38-foot exterior sheaths, it actually needs to be with an upsize stud length. And I want to change that, I want to move that. So one little trick to be able to do that pretty easily is to be able to click in here, and doing what I just did before, I'm going to click on the zoom to. Okay, without having to go there, I know that that item's become selected. So what I can do now is I can actually choose to break this link from this right here to here. But that wall assembly over there in the digitizer is actually still selected. I don't have to do this, but I can, just to prove the point, I'll just come over here, look at the plan. You can see that wall's still selected. And so now, after having broken that link, I can now click back to where I really want that thing to be linked at and click link. And now I've linked that same thing back into that position. And now, because the follow linked is turned on, which is the default behavior for wall assemblies, now I'm going to get 38 feet of this wall as upside stud lengths, also with sheathing, also with the framing material. And now what you may have, if you're in a market that actually uses them, if you ever wanted to use this fourth field, what you're going to need to do is actually double link that line into this field right here. So I'm going to choose that again and link it in. I've got that. That's sort of a nuance for some specific areas or specific parts of the country. So if you have more questions on that, give us a call. We can talk through some of that. But that zoom to feature is actually pretty handy when it comes to moving things around. So especially like if you didn't want a wall to be sheathed anymore. So I'm going to break this, I'm going to zoom to this, break this link, and now I just want this wall to be, just framing only. So again, I can link there. So again, that step is, use the zoom to feature to get that thing selected, break the link, and then link it back. Then when it comes to another feature that you can use with it when it comes to wall assemblies is if you have wall assemblies that are you need additional sheathing to go along with it. So this field right here, additional sheaths length. So let's say that you've drawn this wall in, and it's a sheathed wall like this. So I've got 38 feet sheathed. And maybe it's an addition project, maybe it's something else unique, and that you just need another 40 feet of additional sheathing. Maybe it's existing wall, and you just want to be able to throw more sheets on for that. 40 more for 40 more feet or 20 more feet or whatever. You can come to this additional sheath length and key in whatever footage that you want to have added additionally onto that. So I'm going to hit 20. That typed it in. You can see down here that my sheath length goes up to 58 for how it calculates those sheets. And then, of course, then the output is going to be adjusted accordingly for that. So that's just another small little field. Maybe kind of a unique situation where you might have to do that, but again, something that you can do as well. Also note down here in the controls that you have opportunities for your studs to be plied. So if you needed to ply studs, you could use the plies option here to make those studs be plied. Other features down here that I'm not going to get into today just for sake of time, but top lap and bottom lap, some pretty cool things where you can adjust how far up and far down the sheathing for the wall is being applied. And those can be done in negative laps as well, I'll mention here. So meaning if you have some treated, you want to have a row of treated material, and so you don't want the standard sheathing to be in that lower section, you can actually have a negative lap. So I'll even just show that right here. So like you could have, for my sheathing, I have a negative 4 foot lap. That way the first 4 feet doesn't actually have any sheathing material in it. And instead it has, it'll just be blank. You can leave room to be able to put the treated sheathing in. And more things that we could do with that. So again, if you have more questions on that, let us know. Other stuff we can do. One other feature that's not probably very readily known about relates to being able to then create a wall assembly template in your profile based on a wall that you've already customized here in your digitizer, or in the material list, I should say. So let's, I'm going to duplicate this application. Let's say that we had, you were doing, and this may especially apply if you have a larger commercial type project or a larger residential project where you have several different shear wall types or several different wall conditions. So I'm going to come to this 6-inch exterior wall, and let's say there's some unique things about it, like maybe it actually has a very bottom plate on it. So I'm going to pick a 2x6, and it's not just an upsize bottom plate; it's just actually being called out as a, as a double, just a double plate that's at the bottom. And then perhaps also there's some other additional requirements that you want to do for secondary sheathing. That's been set up, whether or not it's 7/16 DCX or CDX. Other changes that you may have made, like here in the middle section, if you want to adjust the waste factors to be, 26% or 56%, and just other bottom laps and top laps. So I'm going to make just a couple other changes here. So let's say this is just after you've made some adjustments or changes to the general controls of this, maybe no PT studs. What you can do is you can say, okay, I now I've kind of customized this wall assembly, and I'm going to have to use this on multiple different places in this project, on different floors, different levels, different sizes of the house. I can right click on this and I can choose to create wall assembly template. So you can do this for any wall assembly that you have built out. And it's going to pop up this little window, and notice these different settings that I've made are applied. Like here's my 56% waste, here's my no PET studs, different things like that. And so now I can call this my 6-inch special wall. Now you're doing this right in the middle of a project. So this will be, I can click OK. And so this gets added now back here in the profile. And there it is, my 6-inch special wall. So that would be available as I'm drawing things in the plan tab, or as I'm adding additional things here in the material list. So there's, anyways, depending on what your flow is, if you have in your project very customized walls, it's a great way to be able to use those throughout the job instead of having to rebuild them each different level and so on. And then one final thing here this morning that really isn't just limited to wall assemblies, but I'll demonstrate it within the context of the wall assemblies here, but it's really actually a much further reaching feature, and that's related to a search and replace type function. So for example, let's say that I'm sitting here in my main wall and I have, these different 6-inch walls, and for whatever reason, let's just say that I want all of the 2x6 bottom plates across this whole pack to be treated. I hadn't set them up that way, but now I want them to be. This is one way that we could leverage this search and replace feature. I'm going to right click on this garage bottom plate and choose the option here for update identical products. Pull this up, and now I can come to here's my existing product, my 2x6 SPF number 2. And now it gives me the option, okay, what do you want to update that to? And so I'm going to say, well, I want to update this to 2x6 SPF number 2 treated. Okay. And now here, this is what makes this very powerful, is the options that you have down here. So you can control what applications are affected. So in this case, only the garage bottom plate. So I could say that, which would only affect, in this case, one wall assembly. Or I could say the bottom plate applications in all wall assemblies. Yes, yes, that's what I want to actually affect in this case. I could go as far as say all applications where this product is being used. This is like a broad strokes, anywhere you find 2x6 SPF number 2, replace it with this treated. So that's obviously not what I want. In this case, I want my bottom plate. And then I also have the controls to be able to do this at a few different levels, at, only in this pack, or in all packs, but just in this list, or in all packs and all lists. So in this case, since I only want to affect this bottom floor, since that's where the treated plate is going to be, I'm going to leave this as same pack only. Click OK. You can see here, obviously that one got updated, which would seem obvious. But now if I look at my other ones here, my 6-inch garage, there's, my SYP or on both of those exterior walls, that's been updated. The warm wall, that's been updated. Now you can see here, this is a 4-inch wall. And so now I have 2x4 SPF number 2 bottom plate. It's not treated. That's because it's not an identical product. It was a 2x6 is what we were working with, not 2x4. So again, you have that granularity to choose between of how it's going to affect things. So that's very effective tool. And again, that's not limited to wall assemblies. I can, same could be true here for posts. Like I could come here and choose update identical products. And so you would have that same option for posts, whether to apply that to all the post applications or just, or anywhere you find that product. So depending on what your specific needs are for an update that's across a large job where you have maybe multiple different floors, and somebody did a complete substitution of like, hey, let's change this from TGI 230s to TGA 560s, and it's like, let's just totally swap them out. You could make a search identical product update all the way across the job. So that's kind of the quick look today of different features, different opportunities in the wall assemblies, as well as updating replace feature there. If you have questions here in the Q&A section that you want to drop in, feel free to do that. We'll be monitoring that here for a couple more minutes, and then be on the lookout for future classes that we're going to be doing here like this as we come into the new year. We'll be pondering some of the feedback you had and see how best we can be of service to you guys. And then final note that I'll just mention here for all of you that I'm sure you're all aware of, but hopefully if you're not, just to make you aware, if I come to help and come to an online learning center, just be aware, with your subscription comes A, access to this, but B, here's a chat window that you can get a hold of us. You can also use the email support@prebuiltml.com, or there's the phone line that you can call into. So if you have the subscription of our software, you are eligible to make use of that. No extra charge. We're happy to help out. So if there's other questions that you want to touch on, just need feedback on, or whatever, don't hesitate to call. Give us a call, and we're happy to help out. So. And as we finish, looks like we had one question here that we can touch on here. And there was a question about, can you export wall assemblies so you can use them on future projects? Yeah, you can actually. So coming over here to the profile tab. So if you did if this job that I was just doing here, like this 6-inch special wall, I used it on a specific job. I made it, built it up here. And then I decided, hey, you know what? This comes up all the time. Then yeah, you could come here to my export button. I can click on the export button, and then you could export that wall assembly out, that one in particular, or all of them, or whatever. And then you could go into your template file and then go ahead and import that back into the template file that you want to use on a regular basis. So yeah, good question there. And so thanks again for joining us today. We'll talk more to you later next time.